At Fidei.email, we believe in protecting your privacy and supporting your faith. Fidei.email offers peace of mind with features like end-to-end encryption and secure communications tools. Your data stays private and your values remain intact. Choose an email provider that understands what matters to you. Make the switch to Fidei.email today. You have to have noticed that the bishops of the church, whether it's in the United States or in Western Europe, would often rather sell their parishes when they have to do these stupid parish consolidation efforts where they take the number of parishes in their diocese, say they have 60 parishes in their diocese, and they have to drop them down to 35. They would often rather sell that property to avowed enemies of the church or to at least secularists who are going to use those parishes for profane purposes, such as turning them into gyms or turning them into restaurants or yoga studios or all sorts of other weird things, that they would often rather do that than sell their parishes to the SSPX. You don't have to like the SSPX to think that it would probably be a better purpose to allow the holy sacrifice of the Mass to continue in that parish, instead of allowing the parish to be profaned, especially if the profanation is going to be done at the hands of those who explicitly deny the divinity of our blessed Lord Jesus Christ. This happens. This happens all too often. In fact, it happens so often that I feel a little weird even reporting on this for you, but I'm doing so you will pray for the bishop involved in this story. And unfortunately, this is a story that comes to us out of Europe. We go to Info Vaticana for this headline. A Catholic church converted into a worshiper of the crescent moon and its false prophet soup kitchen. The latest affront in Brussels. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an all too common story that plays out in Europe frequently. The bishops have done such a good job of preaching universal salvation while being too cozy with secular governments since the end of World War II that people stopped going to Mass and stopped baptizing their children, to the point where Catholicism and Christianity more broadly are basically on life support in Europe, leading the bishops to sell off church property to stay afloat and to pay off those people harmed by the most wicked men in the Catholic priesthood. The bishops often sell the property to enemies of the church instead of traditionalist orders. The SSPX is just one example, have tried to buy property before from these bishops, and these bishops flat out refuse because they'd rather protect their revolution in the church and sell the property to groups who flat out deny the divinity of Christ than to admit in any way that something has gone horribly wrong with their revolution in the church. Before anybody says the SSPX are in schism, no, they're not. The Vatican has repeatedly said they are not. They have what's called an irregular canonical status in the church. They're essentially in the canon law equivalent of limbo. It's been described by Pope Benedict XVI of happy memory that they are their whole issue with the Vatican and the SSPX is an internal church debate, best left to the powers in Rome and the heads of the SSPX to work out behind the scenes. But that's never how it's treated. But they have said you're free to go to their masses. You're free to contribute to their collections, as long as you don't have a, quote, schismatic attitude, whatever that actually means, about the SSPX and the state of the church. Essentially, as long as you don't think that the one true church is the SSPX, you're probably okay, because the one true church is the Catholic Church. And the bishops, plenty of them, don't care what Rome says, and they themselves have a schismatic attitude about this and claim they're in schism. And what do? They would rather sell their property to those who deny the divinity of Christ than let the same form of the Mass be said in their parishes that has been the spiritual food for the saints going back to the 5th century and frankly earlier before that, as that form of the Mass developed organically from apostolic times. They hate the Catholic faith that much. And these are bishops who do this. Revolutionary men who we have been punished with. Here are the details of this story. From the article, quote, in Molenbeek, Brussels, the Church of St. John the Baptist opens its doors to an iftar, the meal breaking the fake fast during the fake fasting season. As an aside, I have talked to people who are of that theology, we'll say, who tell me that it's a fake fasting season. From their own lips, they have said it. Clearly not, I know not everybody who follows that fake false prophet treats it like a fake fast, but the vast majority of their societies turn nocturnal during that time of year and they gorge themselves. People gain weight clearly during that season. Anyway, some 500 people gathered in this Catholic church, turning into a space of celebrating a redacted ritual under the guise of diversity and multiculturalism. The event was no coincidence. The dinner was part of Molenbeek's bid to be the European capital of culture for 2030. An initiative that, far from highlighting Europe's Christian roots, seems more interested in diluting them. Furthermore, the date chosen was not in vain. It fell on the 9th anniversary of the 2016 Brussels event, perpetrated by redacted people who use fear as their tool, and more than 10 years after the 2015 Paris event, in which Molenbeek played a key role by providing refuge for several of the people who did that. Far from remembering those harmed, reflecting on the effects of radicalization in Europe, the event promoted a narrative of inclusion without considering what it means to allow a Catholic church to host a celebration of the crescent moon worshippers. Jasmine Del Monte, director for the organization Stronger with Words, celebrated the event in church as a symbol of diversity and defended the blending of cultures and religions. However, what it truly represents is a worrying concession of Christian spaces to foreign practices, while faithful Catholics see their faith relegated and their temples converted into place of undifferentiated use. This act is not an isolated case, but another example how Europe's Christian roots are being erased in favor of the worldwide integrationalist ideology that prioritizes multiculturalism over identity. Meanwhile, how long will Catholic churches be allowed to become mere multipurpose halls, losing their sacred function? End quote. Now, strictly speaking, according to the laws of the church, you know what has to happen next before that mass can be said in that space again? It has to be reconsecrated. It was used for a profane purpose. It has to be reconsecrated. And not because, some people did something really distasteful, like played bingo or something in the parish, which you should not be doing. We're not talking the parish hall. We're talking in the space where this holy sacrifice of the mass is offered. No, instead, it was the followers of a false prophet and the false portrayal of God that they present that held an event there. The place needs to be reconsecrated. It cannot be said enough. There's a error promoted by the church these days. And we'll say not by the church, we mean the institution calling itself the Catholic Church. And it's been a pretty nasty error. And it's been pushed back on by the likes of Cardinal Burke, Bishop Schneider, the usual better bishops. And that error is that we as Catholics and as Christians worship the same God as the followers of the crescent moon religion and its false prophet. That is a diabolical lie straight from the pits of perdition. Anytime anybody says that, unironically, the smell of sulfur comes off them because it is a lie. They deny the divinity of God, or of Christ anyway. They deny the triune nature of God. They deny the Trinity. They do not have the same conception of God as we do. There is this error promoted in the post-conciliar era, and that error is that any monotheistic view of God is the same as the Christian God. On its face, that has to be nonsense. It takes not even the slightest bit of actual reading of what others believe and what Catholics and Christians broadly believe to understand that not only is it a lie, it's an evil lie that they promote. Anybody who promotes it has lost the faith. It's a tacit denial of the kingship of our blessed Lord Jesus Christ. Curious what you think of this story. Should Catholics be upset about this? Does this surprise you this is happening during Lent, by the way? You will often see the biggest blasphemies committed during the holy feasting month of Lent. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, please. And like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. So does sharing this on social media. That helps too. And if you've ever thought about supporting the work of Return to Tradition through Patreon, Subscribestar, with that join button, there are options in the description box below. All of them asked for by viewers like you. It does help keep these daily messages coming. Your support is greatly appreciated. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.